we move on to the open forum section. Please continue to keep the momentum going. May I now invite to moderate this section of the International Gita Forum, the chairperson of the advisory committee, Mr. J. Chandran, to join us on stage. We will also be inviting Sri Om Swamiji to join us on stage as well.
We had a wonderful session this morning on the inner Gita and the journey of it. Beautifully handled by Om Swamiji. In the afternoon, we had oxymoron issues widely dealt with by Ranganji. Both are very difficult subjects, and yet they could handle both the subjects with ease. And for considerable length of time. They also handled the questions and answers with masterly understanding of the issues themselves. Now we have come to the concluding part of the forum with the common questions to be handled by both. It need not have to be relevant to the two topics dealt with this morning and this afternoon. It could be generally concerning Hinduism, Gita, and all the other scriptures as well. Please ask the questions in brief. Avoid getting into a mini lecture or exposition. And please mention your name as well. And also direct the question to one of the two speakers if you wish to. Otherwise, most likely, both of them may end up giving a different dimension to the same question. Yeah? The choice is yours. Thank you so much. And it's not easy on a Sunday afternoon after a lunch to sit through the sessions with great interest, and yet you have handled it also very, very appropriately and as the quality of the topics deserve. Now it's open for the forum, and let's have a very interesting session, I'm sure. Yeah?
Namaskar, Guruji. Can I ask, what is Atma? I just want to know.
Is that for anybody or me or?
For anybody. Anybody is Atma. What is Atma means? Just elaborate this thing, please. Thank you.
There is a lot that could be said on this issue, this topic, this question. But there is an essence in you that makes you who you are. That is Atma. When that essence leaves your body, people say, oh, this person is dead. Bury that person. So your reality is not the body alone, because body perishes. The only permanent essence in everything impermanent is Atma. And when Krishna says, Aham Atma Gudake Sarvbhutasha Istita, Aham Adishcha Madhyanam Bhutanam Mantevacha. He's also talking, he's saying, Sarvbhutasha Istita, in every element, not just in every living being. So the ability of the water to quench thirst is a soul of water. The heat in fire is also soul. It comes down to our perspective. It comes down to how we consider what we consider. Shriram yad vapnoti yupachit kramti shvra grihvatani sanyati vayurgandhani va ashyat. Just like wind takes the scent from the flowers, and the flower is there, the scent doesn't reduce, but the wind takes it. Similarly, when soul leaves a body, along with it takes the tendencies of the mind, chitta vritti. The part that leaves you is Atma, and the part that is born again is Atma. Now some say it's indestructible, some say it's independent. In Buddhism, it's said it's a flux of consciousness. It doesn't matter what name you give it. What matters is the true essence of you is Atma. That doesn't die. That's reborn. Energy, you could give it the name of energy, but energy would be a level lower. Energy is something that you can even measure. Energy can be converted into matter, and all matter is energy. But Atma is that inexplicable essence, where you don't know. Today Dr. Rangan was beautifully talking about oxymoron. I was in the back, I heard some of his discourse, and the contradictions. Life is all about contradictions. Hydrogen and oxygen, both are highly inflammable gases. Both combine and water is formed, which can quench fire, which can douse fire, sorry. So energy is a byproduct of soul. When soul leaves, for a little while you have the energy, and eventually the energy will also disappear. Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Srinivas. My question is to both of you. Whose life is difficult? Is it a married man's or a sannyasi's?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Whose life is difficult or easy? Is it a married man's or a sannyasi's?
Whose life is difficult?
Okay, so whose life is more difficult? A married man or a bachelor's? Is that the question? Sannyasi's, okay. There was a man once, he wanted to cross, sorry, Swamiji, did you want to take the call?
Please tell me.
Okay.
I also want to share one thing.
Okay, he wanted to share. Do you want to share first?
Oh, next time.
Okay. There was a man, he was crossing, he was walking and he came across a river. And he looked around and he couldn't see a bridge. And he didn't know how to get across. So he was looking across, and the saint was coming from the other side. And he said to the saint, Maharajji, how do I get to the other side? And the saint looked at him and said, well, my friend, you're already on the other side. You're already on the other side. From where he was standing, he was looking at the other shore. Nothing is easy, really, either being married or being a sannyasi, but nothing is hard if you do it well. Because what you do sincerely, thoroughly, truthfully becomes your nature, becomes your habit. It comes naturally to you then. There is an effortlessness in your effort. If you're okay not having a home, I don't have a home. The whole world's my family, but I don't have a home. If you're okay to just be on your own, and if you're okay to listen to people's problems all day, if you're okay to live your life for other people, then I suppose sannyas is the way. But you could easily be a sannyasi even while grihastha. Ranganji was talking about earlier how Krishna was a celibate as well as the greatest sannyasi. So I don't think renunciation is defined by one's robe. There is no lack of ochre robe in the world. It's a state of mind. Naha sannasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Arur ukshor muner yogam karma karanamuchyate yoga arur satasya vashama karanamuchyate. The one who's firmly rooted on the yogic vehicle, for such a person, they can afford to let go of the karma. But the one who's on the path, they can't. Because they are forever driven and attracted to their desires. And I want to tell you something more. It's Purv Janam's samskara. Nobody chooses a path by intention as such, Ultimately, there are desires, but, I was a teenager when I told my mother that I will never marry. I was 16 years old. At that time, she said, maybe you're too young right now, maybe we'll talk about it when you're in your 20s. And when I was 20 years old, in year 2000, I declared, I'm going to retire in 10 years. And I'm going to renounce. And I renounced exactly as I planned. Because that's where my vritti was. That's where I derived more joy. I thought, I experienced everything in my life. Every sukha you can think of. But I thought, this is not something I want for the rest of my life. I'm happy to live without these so-called luxuries. Because there's a luxury inside here. The ultimate. The ocean of bliss. I thought I'm happy to take deep dives in that. And I'm happy to forego the security, the false security that comes in just being in one relationship. You wanted to add? Or, okay.
Very wonderful answer. I just wanted to share a story regarding this. Swamiji was talking about the inner luxury, regarding that story. I heard this story from Sri Mohanji. He's here from our university, Vyasa. A very nice story. Yes, one Sethji, he met a sannyasin. Perhaps they might be friends in that sannyasin's Purvashrama. Purvashrama, you may be knowing. So, the Sethji, after seeing this sannyasin, Sethji was shocked. Why did you get sannyasa? In this young age, you left everything, all these materialistic pleasures you have left, and you got sannyasa. That's how that Sethji was lamenting. You have done a wonderful sacrifice. You have sacrificed. Your sacrifice is really great. That's how this Seth was glorifying that sannyasi. Sannyasi said, no, my sacrifice is not a great sacrifice. Your sacrifice is really great. Because just for the sake of some materialistic pleasures, you have given up this ocean of bliss, this Atman, Brahman, you have given up, and you got struck with that materialistic pleasures. This, by seeing this, I am wondering how this is possible. That's how the sannyasi responded.
My name is Subramanian. I have a question about free will, and the question is directed to Sri Omji. There was a question in the morning session from someone for which I think the answer was that desires lead to destiny and not that destiny causes you to have desires. And a few minutes ago there was a mention that Purva Janma Samskaras cause you to have the desires. So to me it sounds like it's a closed loop. There is no free will. What's the opinion on that?
Okay. I thought after the afternoon session, I could easily contradict myself. Dhayato vushan punsa sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamat krodha vijayate krodhat bhavti sammoho sammohat smriti vibhrama smriti banchad buddhi nashat pranashyati. It all starts with a desire, O Arjun. It all starts with a desire. And as I explained to you earlier, a desire is an unabandoned thought. A thought comes in your mind, and if you can't let it go, it will become a desire. And that desire will lead to a race, an action of its fulfillment. When it doesn't get fulfilled, you feel frustrated. And when you feel frustrated, you feel depressed and angry. When you feel angry, you lose a sense of judgment. And when you lose a sense of judgment, everything is lost then. So, in regards to free will, earlier in the morning as well, I quoted the 5 elements. And I'll repeat it for you. Adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha prithak vidam vividash prithak sheshta devam jayavatra panchamam. Just free will on its own is nothing. Just like destiny on its own is nothing. But you all are educated people here. And I am not a preacher. I want to make this absolutely clear. I don't believe in preaching. I don't believe in feeding a message. I just believe in sharing, discussing, and you derive your own message. So, there is no way of proving whether something was predestined or not. Really, if you think about it logically, you cannot say, I was destined to be here. Well, you are here because somewhere you planned or somewhere you got somewhere. Everything is interconnected, interdependent. So, the only thing I say is, we cannot relinquish our karma, our action, thinking if it's destined it will happen. And we cannot fight with the forces of nature all the time thinking, I've got free will. I think the truth is balance between the two. Yukta har viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapana bodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. Where there is moderation, O Khantai, where there is a bit of intelligence, because you are born with intelligence, you have this intellect, the ability to think, the ability to process, the ability to analyze. Let's use it. Buddhya vishuddhya yukto dhritatmanyam cha shabdadi vishyastakta rag dvesh vidushya. Even though Krishna talks about, let go of your passion and desires, he said, but you are blessed. You are blessed with intellect. And you need that enthusiasm, that inner driving force that I am going to do something. The only way I saw God, the only way I saw what I saw, the only way I experienced everything was purely by sadhana. So sadhana is not easy. It's you really have to kill yourself. You're sitting there all day, all night meditating. So I believe in action. And isn't that what Krishna said anyway? Karmanye vadhikaraste. You have the right to do the action. And after that, as Dr. Rangan was saying earlier, yogastaha kuru karmani sangam takatva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhya sama bhutva smattam yoga uchate. Why are you worried about free will, Kante? Why are you worried about destiny? Why are you thinking whether this will happen or that will happen? I am asking you, you've made a decision, walk that path. Because Arjuna said to Krishna, Nacha dugna kratarno griyo yadam yadi vano jayahu yane bhatmana jivishamaste avastha pramuke dhritarashtra. We don't even know if we will win or lose, Krishna. Why should I fight? Why should I kill my own cousins? Karpanya dosh upatasvaha prichami tvam dharma samud cheta. Yat shreyasya nishitam bruhi shishya astiham shadima tvam prapannam. I am mood, Arjuna said. I don't know what's right for me, so I have come seeking your refuge. You tell me what's best for me. And this leads me to the conclusion of this answer. Either have the determination to walk a path or have complete surrender to follow somebody else. Either you become the engine of a train or you become the compartment of the train. Either way, you will end up somewhere. If I change my mind midway, my train will be derailed. And there is no hope then. I hope I answered your question. Please, next. Did you want to?
My name is Natarajan.
Thank you. Sorry, he's got the microphone. Sir, it's being passed in order, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Natarajan. Morning, Swamiji was telling a joke about the boat story, right? I mean, that's a very small joke, but my question is a very deeper question into Hinduism itself. Basically, there's a lot of belief among people that Hinduism is not a religion, but it's a way of...
Put the mic bit up?
Yeah, there's a lot of belief that generally people loosely say that Hinduism is only a way of life, it's not a religion. But we all know that Hinduism has evolved through various scriptures, Vedas, Vedantas, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, all these things. So when we say that, when people tend to believe that Hinduism is not a religion, whereas other faiths, I don't want to call them religion, other faiths treat that faith as a religion, because of which are we not, by being too liberal, are we not eroding Hinduism as a religion itself, Hinduism as a faith? Because if you don't consider it as religion, and you don't consider it as a very true faith, just have it as a loosely liberalized religion, then is it that all the scriptures which form the core of Hinduism will also get eroded over a period of time?
Okay, good question. If you look at the classical 108 Upanishads, starting from, let's say, Katha Upanishad to all the remaining one, Ishavasya Upanishad, Yoga Upanishad, Dhyana Upanishad, Yoga Bindu Upanishad, Bindu Dhyana Upanishad, Tripura Upanishad, all the Upanishads. If you look at our Vedas, Ayurveda, Tharveda, Samveda, Rigveda, and all the scriptures I'm quoting, I've read them all, by the way. If you look at our Puranas, even the ones that were edited as late as the 5th century AD or, CE, the word Hindu is not mentioned anywhere to begin with. The word is Sanatan Dharma. And what is Dharma? Dharma is a way of life. So, of course, Hinduism as a religion, or Sanatan Dharma as a religion, it has always existed. Urdu mula mada shakham ashwatham prahuravyam chandasi yasya paranani yastam vedasa vedavita. This life is a religion, Kante. The tree is inverted. This is the mool. This is the root of all the thoughts. So religion is there. It always was there. But let me tell you a little story. The reason I use humor because it gets straight to the heart. I believe if I cannot convey my point to you simply, then I'm not doing my job. If you want to hear mumbo jumbo, there's plenty of other stuff, right? There was a young salesman, and he tried really hard to make a sale. He worked with a client for 9 months. Eventually, the prospective client said, I'm not too keen. And the young salesman was very disappointed. So he went back to his boss. He said, well, as they say, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. And his boss said, well, son, let me give you a piece of advice. Your job is not to make the horse drink the water. Your job is to make the horse thirsty. If you make the horse thirsty, it will drink the water. Hinduism as a religion, Sanatana Dharma, has never tried to make anybody drink the water. It says, I have enough knowledge across all streams. You want bhakti? Come here. You want devotion? Come here. You want yoga? Come here. You want gyan? You want to walk the path of dhyan? You want to walk the path of karma? It's all here, right here, one-stop shop. You don't have to go anywhere, but I'm not going to preach you, this Sanatana Dharma says. Idam tena tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana nacha ashrushve vacham nachayo besuyati. Don't give this knowledge to everybody, Krishna says, because not everybody is ready for it. Why do we want to focus on quantity? I'd rather have quality. Why worry about, there should be more and more of our religion if we just have, in the whole 2,500 years of history of Buddhism, only 12 key disciples. In our 5,000 documented history of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, or even 8,000 years old history, only a handful of sages? But they were enough to cause a transformation, the ripples of which can be felt even today. I'll tell you, the greatest transformation you can create in others and in the society, in the world, is to be that transformation yourself. If you are a true Sanatana Dharmi, if you are a true Hindu, everybody around you would want to know what is the secret of your joy. What is the secret of your happiness? If you are shouting, if you're angry and you are praying every day, even your own children will say, you know what, we don't want to do the prayers. You are upset, you are angry, you are fighting every day. Why? Why should we sit in front of God and pray? So as they say, example is better than precept. our liberalization is our strength. And on that strength, this religion has survived all invasions. External people in the history of India, whether it's from Turkey or Mongolia or Middle East or even Spain or Portugal or even European other countries, invaded India, but nobody could destroy us. Because how do you fight with somebody who doesn't defend himself? We are not resisting, we are not defending. Somebody says your God is this, fine. You can spit on the sky. And it happened in Japan. There was a monastery there, and the founder of that monastery was known to be an opponent of Buddha. And he even used to spit on Buddha's idols, saying this is all crazy. And when he died, his disciples made an idol of him. 2 researchers from the USA went to this monastery, and he was taken inside, and they said, well, please take a look at our guru who used to be here. He said, isn't that the same person who used to spit on Buddha, on his idol? And you worship him? You bow down before him? And this abbot of the monastery said, well, sir, you can spit if you want. You can spit if you want to spit. I prefer to bow. And I think this is the essence of truthful living. Let others do what they want to do. You do what you have to do. Gandhi didn't stop the Britishers. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. He said, look, this is what I'm going to do. And let's see, there's a saying, Mere gunah zyada ya teri rahmat. Let's see if my bad karma exceeds your grace. He will protect himself. Our job is to lead a truthful life. I know people, they are strict vegetarians, but they will see a cake very tasty and they will pretend as if they didn't know there's egg in it. It's much better to say, well, I know there's egg in it, but I'm going to give one more egg some moksha, so I'm going to consume it anyway. Anyway, please, the next question. Excuse me. Sorry, just something to add.
Okay. Is Hinduism a religion? That question is an interesting question. Actually, first of all, we have to know what is religion. We should have some definition of religion. If you go into it, there are around some 60 to 70 definitions for the word religion. Okay? We have to take every word definition and we have to validate. If this is the definition, then Hinduism is a religion. If this is not, if another thing is a definition, then Hinduism is not a religion. That's how we have to see the whole thing. For example, let me take 2 definitions of religion. One definition, the practices which are related to the intimate connection of individual soul with God. This is a definition for religion in Australian Constitution. Okay. If this is a definition, a major part of Hinduism is like that. Okay. Our souls are connected to God. That's how Bhagavad Gita says. Okay. Major part of Hinduism is theistic. So fine, Hinduism is a religion if this is a definition. In our Indian Constitution, recently the word religion is defined. The definition is more or less similar to the definition given by Patanjali to yoga. Okay, religion in India is very interesting. The definition is very interesting. Anything which is believed to take to the internal peace is religion. This is Indian Constitution. Okay, fine. So if this is the definition for religion, then Hinduism is a religion. Okay, but there are few other definitions for religion. In that context, Hinduism may not be called as a religion. So first of all, we have to determine what is religion. If we determine in our mind that one, then we can validate whether Hinduism is a religion or not. This one thing. One more thing I want to share regarding free will and destiny. I was thinking about that. In Brahma Sutra, there is a vichara. Interestingly, in this point, Shankaracharya, Sri Ramanuja and Sri Madhva, all these three are going together in commenting these sutras. The vichara is about this, free will and destiny, regarding that. Karta shastrarthavatvat. This is a sutra. Here what Badarayana says, that is Brahma Sutrakara says, Karta, who is Karta? Who is doer? And the answer is, doer is this individual. Why? Shastrarthavatvat. Taking this individual as doer, Shastras are giving injunctions and prohibitions to him. If he is not doer, the whole of the Shastra becomes a waste. Okay. He is a doer. This individual is a doer. Okay. So here Badarayana wants to put forth the free will. Fine. In this sutra. Fine. And all the commentators give the same meaning in this context. Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva. And then another sutra, Phalam ata upapattehe. Ataha, from the divine. Okay. Phalam, result comes. Upapattehe. This is logical. Okay. That is how this is the meaning of that sutra. Phalamata upapattehe. So result is destined, but action is done by this individual's decision. This is what Badarayana feels. So as he said, nobody can go and validate what is right or what is wrong, but in the Shastra, in Brahma Sutra, in this context, the discussion goes in this way. So Swami Vivekananda, following this, he rightly said, today's free will is tomorrow's destiny. He says that. Today's free will is tomorrow. Because today I am doing a punya, I decide to do that punya. Today I commit a papa, I decide to commit that papa. But what happens? Once that punya is committed, papa is committed, for that result is sure. The result is destined. Result will definitely come to us. The same to punya also. Once the punya is done, then the punya's result has to come. That is destined. Fine.
Okay, Swamiji, my name is Gopala Ranganathan. I have a simple question about, is everything predetermined? You had a lot of explanation about it. I have my personal experience about it. I believe in the science of astrology. In the science of astrology, they say everything can be clearly calculated based on dashas and bhuktis and things like that. In my own case, I practice astrology. I have seen more than 500 horoscopes by now. And my wife had a chance of giving birth, and it was an operation, right? Caesarean operation. I had given time to the doctor also that my son has to be born at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, so that he is going to be born in Dhanur Lagna. And we were trying for it. And everything went on well. And unfortunately, doctor said that she had to be operated at 12 o'clock. And I was chasing them, don't do the operation now, postpone it for 2:30. I was putting my maximum efforts to make sure that my son is born in Dhanur Lagna, so that he has so many combinations and blah, blah, blah. But it never happened. It was fatalistic that my son was to be born in Scorpio Lagna, that means Vrishchak Lagna, and he has this horoscope. That means we know certain things that we can control, but nothing is in our hands. That means I feel personally that everything is predetermined, and it is going on in a very regular fashion.
Okay.
Right?
Good question. Good point. I was 12 years old when I started practicing astrology. In my life, I've seen more than 20,000 horoscopes. And astrology is a very good probability theory. From Bhrigu Samhita, Prashar Samhita, Varahamir Samhita, Nashta Jatkam, Naranda Srimali, S.D. Senda, C.V. Raman, B.V. Raman, I've read them all. From Gochar, Drishkan, Shashtanch, Mahadasha, Vishwantri Dasha, Ashtotri Dasha, Parantar Dasha, Pratyantantar Dasha, I've done them all. There was a time I consulted Panchangam for everything in my life. But I was 16 years old when one day I went up the terrace and I said, I'm burning this piece of paper down. And I was born in a Brahmin family. My mother was a deeply religious lady. She's still there. She's retired. And she said, my Purvashan's brother ran down and he said, oh, he's burning his horoscope. And she came up running. She said, why are you doing this? You know, I had already burned half of it. She rescued my half-burned destiny, so to speak. And she said, you know, learned Brahmin wrote it. I said, Ma, I want to tell you something. 9 planets don't govern my destiny. I write my own script. Because I will tell you something very logical, if you will. In our galaxy, there are potentially billions of planets. Astrology takes 9 planets, of which nobody even knows where the hell are Rahu and Ketu. Nobody has any clue. They're called dragon's head and dragon's tail. And Uranus and Neptune, they've been recently, less than 200 years ago, they've been recognized as planets in astrology, but really there is no place in the main 9 stream planets. Moon is a satellite which is considered a planet in astrology, and Earth, the planet we stand on, it's not even there. So I asked myself, are billions of planets not doing anything, only these 6 planets making decisions about my life? Yes, you can predict with astrology. I've been through that, I've done that. But at the same time, astrology can go awfully wrong with predictions. According to astrology, I should be dead when I was 32 years old. According to my palm as well, this is my lifeline, just 32, I'm dead. There's a line of marriage, I've never married my whole life. And I know I won't marry, doesn't matter what any planet says. So, I'm not saying destiny doesn't exist. At the same time, I'm not saying that destiny is all there is. I'm saying, if we look at it objectively, there is really no way to prove it. Just like you, I've made predictions that went right with extraordinary precision, and predictions that didn't go right. In my own case, for that matter. So there comes a point in time when you rise above these planets. Maharsha Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastatha. I have existed before all the 14 Manus and the 7 Rishis, the ones who expanded on this astrology. If you look at Padam Puran or Narada Puran or some of the other Vaishnava Purans or even Shiv Puran for that matter, it's full of expositions on astrology. But you know, if you meet 100 women, pregnant ladies, you tell them you'll have a son. 50 of them will. It's simple probability. And those 50 will go and tell 500. But is astrology a joke? No. There is truth to it. Why? Because here I'm going to tell you something very scientific. If I'm able to get my point across, you will know what I mean. There is this thing called biology of belief. You can bring changes in your life. You can bring changes in your body, in your emotional, physical, psychological, mental, physiological setup, just by believing something to be true. That's how sometimes really worried people manifest their own fears in their lives. You know, they will think, oh, today is no good, tomorrow is not good. I ran software company, I ran another 3 businesses in my life, multi-million-dollar businesses, more money than I knew what to do with it. Not even once I consulted Panchangam or astrology or Gochar or anything to name at all. I said, you know, is God, is destiny gonna favor me because I'm naming something a certain way? I don't think so. Even my own name, you know, I was given the name by my guru, which is a different sannyasi name. I don't use it because when I saw Mother Divine, she came and used that name 3 times. And I said, Ma, that name is so pure now, I don't want the world to say it. So I picked up a name. I even dropped the name. I said, what's easy to remember? I said, Om Swami. That's why I became Om Swami. And I thought it's easier to get a domain name, omswami.com, so that's why I chose Om Swami. But I'm being honest with you. So I don't think just some planets hovering around dead balls in the sky will determine how my life is going to pan out. I think my choices will. And if you're an astrologer, you would know that countless times, there are Raj Yogas or Kalsarp Yoga, which is not even a real yoga, by the way. There are all those yogas in the horoscopes, and things should happen according to that, but things don't happen. Anything goes wrong, blame it on Shani, blame it on Rahu, blame it on Mangal, poor things, whatever. They're just going around in the cosmos, causing anybody no harm. So it is a matter of personal choice. A, you want to believe that somebody else is got the reins to your destiny, your life, or B, you want to make it happen on your own. It matters not how straight the gate. William Henley wrote this. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. And that's how I like to lead my life. At least let's get going and we'll see what happens. I believe in nature, I believe in God, because that's how everything is surviving. Anyway, sorry, I think it's a long answer to a short question.
Hello. My name is Rajesh.
We'll give this gentleman a chance here, please, if you don't mind. Sir?
I want to say, in Gita, Lord Krishna has said that in Veda, Samadhi is I. In trees, people tree is I. In animal, lion is I. And we say, कि जंगल का राजा शेर होता है, लाइन. तो ये कैसा राजा है जिससे सब डरते हैं, और जंगल में राजा पशुओं के लिए क्या करता है?
Thank you. मृगानाम मृगेंद्रोहम, Krishna says. मृगों में मृगेंद्र मैं हूँ. अश्वत्थ सर्ववृक्षानाम, वृक्षों में अश्वत्थ मैं हूँ. जंगल का राजा शेर क्यों है? A lion never drinks water before any other animal. Even if a lion is hungry, it will wait at the bank of a pond or a river. It will make sure all the other animals have had their meal before it will have their quench their thirst before it will go. And by that, Krishna is not saying that I am the king or something. He's saying, think of the most terrifying thing, Sarpanam Vasuki Asmi. I am that. And think of something really docile. Yajnanam Jap Yagyasmi. Japa is also me. He's saying whatever you see is me. He's saying whether it's a king or a pauper doesn't matter. The essence is me. You were asking about soul earlier. That is the essence. So बाकी वो जंगल का राजा कैसे हो गया वो तो शेर से जाके पूछना पड़ेगा. Only a lion can answer why he is the king. Please go check with him. There are very few left now in the world.
Hello, my name is Rajesh. The question is, a lot of characteristics have been carried generation after generation through the genes, right? So is Papa Karma also can be transferred through that process?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Genes. So a lot of characteristics, human characteristics, has been transferred generations after generations through the genes.
Oh, genes, okay, genes.
Right, or hereditary, yeah. Right. So even Papa Karma can be transformed through that? Or is it something individual has to go through the incarnation process?
I don't think you can transfer karma. It's like I can teach you how to dance, but I can't dance for you. Right? I can pass on the attributes. I can tell you this is how a dancer makes the moves. But ultimately, it's something you do yourself. That said, everything we do has an impact on everything else in the world. Even a butterfly fluttering about here has an impact 300 meters down the line. So there is inert gases called, one of them is argon gas, for example. They are trying to reconstruct, the words we have said here today, they will stay here for millions of years. And you can reconstruct what was said by because those molecules are inert. So you can pass on attributes, genes and other genetic attributes is the right word really, but I don't think you can pass on your karma. Somebody, a couple the other day, in one of my discourses, they lost a son at a very early age. And they said to me, Swamiji, is it possible that our son paid the price of our bad karma? And they lost a son who was barely in his 20s. I said, I don't think any God could be so cruel that he would want to punish somebody by saying, I'm going to take away your child because you did some bad karma. So of course your karma has an influence on the children, and children's karma have an influence on you. But it's just a question of influence, not really passing it on as such. I hope I answered.
Manusmriti, there is a shloka, Ekav palayate dharmam, ekav palayate kulam. Eko majjati eko hi niraye, eka surge mahiyate. As an individual does punya, as an individual does papa, and as an individual falls in hell, as an individual goes to heaven. Just the shloka may help for your question.
Pranam sir, Swamiji. You mentioned that you had some 20 years of spiritual quest, and eventually, you found, your goal, that moment. Could you give some insight, what was that experience, and how did you know that was the experience, you were, going through for 20 years? Could you please give some insight? Thank you.
Okay. I will answer your question briefly. But before I do that, I would like to tell you, I had a vision of Mother Divine, which happened in the wee hours of the morning. A complete manifestation that I touched, I held, I talked to. Before that, I had many visions. I had done sadhanas of, you name it, apsaras, yoginis, jakshinis, all types of Devi sadhana. I tried everything. Tantra was my real specialization. But after I had the vision, once you see the light, there is no confusion that whether it's light or not. Sometimes if you look at a dark sky and thunder occurs, in that lightning, for a moment, everything is lit. For a moment, you see the whole sky, you see all the trees, the mountains, the rivers, everything. And you just take a glimpse, oh, this is what it is. Now, but I want to differentiate something. Realization or self-realization is not an aha moment. It's not an epiphany you go, oh, I get it now. No, that's intellectual. Real realization dawns on you. Just like sun rises but doesn't become hot the moment it rises. It takes a little while during the day when it gets to that stage. The same thing happens with realization. In terms of what happened during that experience, it was I've recorded a video on this. The reason I've recorded a video, I find it very hard to narrate it because I go back in that bhav, because you have to understand, I have absolutely no motivation to live in this world. I have no desire. There is nothing I want. So then I'm drawn back to the Himalayas, and then I feel like, why am I living? What for? People were doing just fine before me, they'll keep doing fine just after me, there is really no point. So I don't talk much about my experience, but because I promised somebody once, I did record it. If you go to my blog, omswami.com, in the search box, type Vision of the Goddess, you'll see a video, and watch that video. It's half an hour long, and it's got the answer that you just, answer to the question you just asked me. When I got that vision, after that many profound changes did take place in my body. Most notably was the ability to shut down my heartbeat. And second was these profound sensations in my head that are there all the time. So a year and a half ago, I went to National Brain Research Center in Gurgaon in India, and there was a person there called Dr. Roy. He had worked with Stanford for 25 years, a neuroscientist and researcher in that area. I said to him, I've got these sensations going on in my head. all the time. I think it's Samadhi because I'm always a little dazed. I know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on. It took me 1 year after the realization to be able to read again, to be able to write again, to be able to talk again, to be able to walk again properly. Because everything will just merge in whatever I would do. That experience of oneness left me completely useless for the world. 1 year after that I practiced before I walked back into the world. So he put me under MRI machine. And before he did that, he said to me, Swamiji, for how long can you maintain your state of Samadhi? He said, I did this experiment with Tibetan monks. They can be in Samadhi for 6 minutes after a meditation of 48 minutes. So I need a minimum of 6 minutes of data from you to be able to compare it with theirs. Otherwise, I cannot verify if you're in Samadhi or not. I said, my problem is exactly the reverse. I don't know how to come out of Samadhi. So please put me under MRI and see for yourself. As soon as they put me under MRI, from the moment they started monitoring, that moment onwards, there was no normal state in the brain. They only found one state called super state, which I took further to the peak state. There was no normal state in the brain at all. So this experiment was done, and I said, this is not really rocket science. But I want to tell you something even more remarkable. I said, when my conscious brain is active, when my conscious brain is processing information, even at that time, my state of Samadhi is fully intact. I know because I feel those sensations. But please, you verify it using your machines, imaging equipment. So they put me under fMRI, it's called functional MRI, and they flashed images, 10 images and a break, 10 images and a break, 10 images and a break, 40 images they flashed in 48 minutes. So while I was answering their questions, what the image was, the peak state did not come down even by a fraction. And Dr. Roy was obviously astounded because he at first didn't even think that such people existed, especially in India, which is got now the reputation that it's just all talk. I came out, I said, this is all hunky-dory, but let's do one more experiment. I said, I'm going to shut down my heartbeat, and in that state, when I'm clinically dead, I will answer your questions because consciousness is all pervading. So, but I won't open my mouth, I will do that with a blink of an eye. And he said, okay, that sounds great. So he did that experiment. He asked me questions on mathematics and stuff. Some other IIT students did that experiment with me. And I answered their questions with a blink of an eye. Is 2 + 7 4? Yes or no kind of thing. Sun rises from the west. Simple and more complex questions. Thereafter, I said to Dr. Roy, now let's really blow science out of the water. I said, I'm going to shut down my heartbeat, and you check my blood flow. You point with your finger where you want to see the blood flow in my brain. I'll push it there when my heart's not beating. Now, this is scientifically not possible because you are not pumping blood if your heart's not beating. But with the manipulation of pranavayu, I demonstrated that. And I didn't demonstrate anything for any exhibitionism. I demonstrated because this instills faith. Because when I was on my search, I was looking for a demonstration. I wanted a real, practitioner, not a preacher. Somebody says, yes, I'm in Samadhi, and how do I know? I have no way of knowing. So these changes occurred afterwards. You will not see me wearing a jacket or a jumper. I may do that in the future. Till date, I haven't done it. I don't believe in absolutes. So, because the inner heat is so potent. Even in the Himalayas, I was in one piece of cloth, like one robe kind of thing. So these changes came about, and sometimes if you are traveling from here to, let's say, a location X, and you're going there for the first time or even the second time, you won't know till you go there if you've reached. But from the milestones, you know you're going in the right direction or not. Similarly, these epiphenomenons, I call them, these so-called siddhis or other things, they are milestones on the path. I heard it all my life, these are distractions, these are distractions, these are distractions. Okay, maybe they are distractions, but show me at least one distraction. If somebody like Sachin Tendulkar says it's no big deal to make 10,000 runs, I can understand. If a street player comes to me and says it's no big deal to make 10,000 runs, I say, well, have you done it yet? So I was after practical proof. And the only reason I came back from the Himalayas, the primary reason, I thought the way I was desperate, if somebody else is desperate, at least I can go, at least I can tell that person, yes, I have seen God. And yes, you can see God as well, in this very lifetime. And yes, you can also experience Samadhi in this very lifetime. You can also experience the bliss the scriptures talk about. But all you have to do is walk the path I did. Don't follow me, don't get tied down to me, don't trust me, don't believe me. Just follow your own path. Ya imam pushpitam vacham pravdanta vipaschita vedvadarda parthana annasthiti vadina kamatmana sargvaram janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesh bahulam bhogashwara gatim prati bhogashwara prasaktam tyahritchetsam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhona vidyate. Don't fall for those khante who are just talking flowery words, sweet words. They're just telling you what's already in the Vedas, nothing new. Go for those who have the practical experience. Because when you go through fire, you will either burn or you will either shine. Or you will shine. There is no third route. So anyway, I hope I answered your question. If there is any other question. Well, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ajay. My question is to Om Swamiji. Can you please share your philosophy and some practical tips for achieving good health?
Good health?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, eat well, exercise well, really. What exercise can do, good diet cannot. What good diet can do, exercise cannot. So, your life should have, some part of your daily routine, or at least 3 to 4 times a week, should be devoted to exercising. Could be, going to the gym, could be yoga, could be a sport, badminton, tennis, swimming, anything. And some part on eating right. So, don't eat what I eat all the time these days, fried foods. So don't eat fried foods. If you can avoid them, don't eat monosaturated fat or hydrogenated fat. Don't eat white flour. Eat whole foods as much as you can. Eating a fruit is much better than drinking juice. I used to be extremely health conscious at one time. Now I have a good excuse, I just don't get the time, but it's my plan to get back next year. I'm in really bad shape, to be honest with you. So good health depends on exercise and diet. And the third thing, if you can't take care of exercise, if you can't take care of diet, a stress-free life. Find a way to be stress-free. Some stress reliever, some activity that engages you and helps you come off stress, you will enjoy good health in that case. And as I was saying in the morning, good health, good physical fitness should be everybody's top priority. And the word should, I choose it very, very carefully and very rarely. Because I don't believe in shoulds and do's and don'ts. I believe, you figure out your own truth. And really, other things, sleep at the same time every day if you can. And get up at the same time every day if you can. Your body adjusts to this beautiful biorhythm when you do that. And if you can, then never ever go to bed after watching TV. It causes havoc. You will have more dreams, you will wake up less fresh. Before you go to bed, do some reading or meditate for 5-10 minutes and then go to sleep. I have never bought TV my whole life. Only once for my parents. Wherever I lived, I never kept a TV. I never bought a newspaper except in year 2000 when I had to look for a job. Because I believe anything you want to know, people will tell you. You don't have to read newspapers. Plus these days online, you just go to, just read through. So you need to filter out what you keep in your head. I've never been on any social media network. Even when I was in the business. No Facebook, no Twitter, no nothing. Filter out what you really need in life and don't add complexity. A simple life will be a healthy life. No mantra, no sadhu, no God can give you health unless you exercise. Really. Thank you. You can chant Mahamrityunjay mantra till the cows come home, but if you're not exercising, you're not going to lose weight, period. And of course, visualization is incredibly powerful. If you meditate for 5 minutes, visualizing good health, that will start to manifest in your life. But of course, you have to exercise. Okay.
Hi, my name is Mano. My question is about rituals in Hinduism. This is my personal belief. I think rituals is important. I think in Bhagavad Gita it also says that. But do you think today we are losing the philosophy and too much of rituals, so we're losing the fruit of our prayers?
I just heard some bass. I couldn't really hear your question, but I think you asked, are rituals important in today's date?
Yep, so maybe I keep the mic a bit further. Is it better now?
Little better, yeah. Thank you.
I think in the current world, right, many of our new generations think that our Hinduism is getting too much rituals. Like we sit into a homam or something, it takes 2 hours, I'm so bored, I'm moving away. So this is how I have to connect to God, it's taking too much of my time. So on the other hand, people say, no, you have to sit down here, the rituals are good for you, you must understand that. How do we handle this? Well, what do you suggest that we should do?
Okay, I understand, thank you. So this question is for me, right? Okay. I don't believe that rituals can twist your destiny. If they could, there would be no Dushasans on our planet. There would be no Duryodhans. There would be no conflict. There would be no challenges. But rituals are not useless either. Can you please take the child out? I'll appreciate it because it's not fair to everybody else. Thank you. He's already quiet. So I don't think they're entirely useless either. Yaha shastra vidhim dustarjya vartate kamakarata nasa siddhim vapnoti na sukham na param gatim. Somewhere Krishna says, Arjuna, don't renounce rituals just like that. Somebody asked Dalai Lama. They said, why do you meditate every day? And Dalai Lama said, well, let's imagine for a moment there is afterlife. If there is afterlife, then obviously there is also the concept of liberation or nirvana or salvation. So if there is afterlife, then I'm all set. Because I've been meditating all day. I've been meditating every day, so I am certainly going to be okay. And if there is no afterlife, well, what the hell, meditation wasn't such a bad thing to do anyway. If you enjoy the rituals, rituals can be very potent. Because they connect you with the roots. They connect you to your roots. You understand where I belong. You understand this is my lineage, this is my samskara, this is my culture, this is my tradition. If you don't do any rituals for a moment, what will you pass on to your children? Really, you may never need a watch, but if you keep a watch, you can give it to your son or daughter saying, look, this is our watch that's been going on from one family to the other. And they'll have these memories. Tasmad shastra pramanam te kara kara evavthiti. Gyatva shastra dhan okta karma kutar mhirsi. Whenever you're in doubt, Kante, refer to the scripture. Krishna says, because scripture will remove your doubts. Like I said, either you go your own path or you follow somebody completely. Why be in between? Either surrender or take control. So what is not prudent is to enforce the rituals that existed 5,000 years ago in today's time. That's not wise. If I say, in those times washrooms used to be always on the outside, they would keep fireplace in the Agni cone in that direction, because fields would always be towards the north because of the winds that would blow. It was all structured. Water tank will be near the fields, not in the house, because it was a well, and sometimes to drink water, wild animals would also come. And they had time, so you could not walk into the kitchen with your slippers on, because you don't know in the mud, in the earth, in dirt where they've been. But today, rules of the game have changed. Now if I'm going to be that rigid, somebody touched me, I must take a bath again, then I'm not following a ritual, I'm being stupid. Because God has no such connection with it. If you only ask yourself, why am I doing what am I doing, half your questions will be answered. So I say, sure, follow, but ask yourself, what exactly am I doing? I hope I answered your question. Follow your inner voice in one word, that's what I will say.
My name is Rangan, and this question arises out of my ignorance, so I seek clarification. Dr. Saab, you had just said that the Mahabharata is probably the commentary built around the Gita. It's
Dr. Rangan must have said.
Yes. And how would you then characterize the end of the Mahabharata? And the purpose of my question is, by listening to Krishna, what did Arjuna end up doing? And if you look at the consequences of the Mahabharata, how would you characterize them? And if you characterize them as a good thing, then obviously the advice was great. And if you characterize them as not so good and rather tragic, then a question arises of how good was the advice?
What's the question?
So the question is twofold. How do you characterize the end of the Mahabharata? Do you think it's fundamentally a tragedy? Or do you think it's fundamentally the victory of good over evil? What did Arjuna get out of actually engaging in the war? And how did it all end up? And then that obviously has implications on the advice that was given in the Gita by Krishna to go ahead with the war. Am I clear in my question?
I think that I'm following your question. Let me repeat the question.
I'm
first.
not to answer, but...
Yeah, please answer, then I shall continue. First of all, question, just let me understand the question. That is end of Mahabharata, is it tragedy or happy ending? Based on that we can, what we have to do based on that? First time understanding the question, then we can...
Is Mahabharata, was the ending good or bad?
Okay.
If we consider it good, then how do we characterize it? The ending, if we consider
characterizes means?
How do we see it? What's your viewpoint on this?
Okay, if it is good, okay, fine.
Then what does that do to Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna advised Arjuna, go fight?
Fine. Okay, fine. Please tell, then I will come.
In explaining my question, I forgot the answer. But before I give you the answer, I want to find out, are you guys still here, not tired? Are you still here, not tired?
We're here.
Okay, good. So, sorry?
If you are on the desk,
Right.
you don't need to be tired.
So kind of you. Beautiful. Once upon a time, there was a farmer. He went to a saint on a Sunday. He said, Maharajji, please give me some gyan. And the saint said, how many of you have come? He said, just me. Just one person? I can't give gyan to one person. Please form a group and come, he said. He said, Maharaj, that's quite ridiculous if you ask me. I am a farmer. And even if one cow shows up, I feed her. I don't say, come with a group and then I'll feed you. And the saint said, wow, that's really good. Okay, please, I'm sorry, take a seat. And the saint gives him a discourse for 1 hour. Really good, in-depth knowledge. An hour later, he says to the farmer, so, how was it? He said, Maharaji, when one cow shows up, I don't give her the feed of the 20 cows. I only give her the feed of the one cow. I don't want to give you all the Gyan today, but anyway. So your question was, how do we see the ending as evil or bad? Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher, said something really beautiful once. He said, in a country poorly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of. And in a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In the 5th century, influenced by the Buddhist teachings, Tibet decided that we are not going to fight anymore. They dismantled their defense system, their military, everything, only to be conquered by China a few centuries later. What Krishna advised was not in the individual benefit of one person. Krishna said you must not look at your personal benefit, because Arjun was not deciding to fight because he thought it was the right thing to do. Arjun was shirking from his responsibilities, saying, I can't fight because these are my own people. So Krishna said, you have to look beyond yourself, Arjun. What are you doing? These people are relying on you. These people are looking up to you, your people. Do you want India, do you want this world to be governed, Krishna said to Arjuna, by those who are only living for themselves, or should we have a good king? So clearly Krishna looked at Bharat as a country, and he saw what was good for the country, not what was good for the individual, and in doing so, he also lost Abhimanyu, which was his sister's son. So when somebody does something great, there is always going to be some sacrifice involved, because you simply cannot keep all the people happy on the planet. You may have the best policy to do whatever it is that it's aiming for. Still, there are going to be some people who won't agree with you. So, of course, the ending of Mahabharata, whether it was good or bad, I think it's beyond that, because that's a duality, and that's always subjective. In 1956, they did a really interesting experiment, a thought experiment. They said, imagine there's a trolley that's let loose on a rail track, and 5 people are tied to the track. Just before that track, there is a diversion happening on the other rail track. There is only one person tied. And you have access to the lever, so that if you were to pull that lever, the trolley will not go towards the 5 people, but instead will go towards the one person. Now what will you do? Will you pull the lever? Do you think it's okay to save 5 people and kill one? And the trolley is headed towards those 5 people tied on the track. It's a very difficult question. The chances are people will say, yes, let's just kill one person and save 5. Even though that one is actually safe as it stands. Unless you pull the lever, the trolley won't go in that direction. You might say, yes, it's okay to kill one person and not 5. But what if that one person is your mother? What will you do then? So morality is not absolute. Nothing is. That's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. That's what's the whole discourse on oxymoron of Bhagavad Gita, that there are no absolute answers in life. And one time Krishna also went as a messenger of peace and said, Duryodhana, give only 5 towns. But when he wouldn't agree, he also showed his wrath. So it depends on what the country, the society, the world needs, and not in absolute good or bad, right or wrong. I mean, if somebody knew Hitler would do what he did, would it have been right to kill him as a child? To slay him? Who's to say? And because he wasn't killed, look at what he did. The damage of which can be felt even today. So, and if we think Krishna was God, then question of right or wrong doesn't arise. He did And we just followed. Sthito asmi gat sandeha krishya vachanam tav. Whatever you say, Krishna, I'm not going to question it, I'm just going to do it. Vyas prasadar shrutva netad guhatamaham param yogam yogeshvrat krishnat sakshat kathyata swam. With the divine grace of Maharshi Ved Vyas, Sanjay says to Dhritarashtra, we have heard the most esoteric knowledge which was said by nobody else but Yogeshwara Shri Krishna himself. So if we believe it was that Krishna was God, then the question of right or wrong doesn't arise. He clearly knew more than everybody else. Ahami sarvyogyanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha avajananti mamoda manusham tanumashritam. Those who think I'm human being, they don't really know. Param bhavamajananto mam bhut maheshwaram. Because I am God, he said. So if we believe he was God, the question of right or wrong doesn't arise. If we don't believe he was God, well then Mahabharata may as well be a work of fiction. Just any other scripture. I hope I answered your question. Sorry.
Mahabharata's conclusion, the popular conclusion, well-known conclusion is that Yudhishthira's coronation. Okay. But if we go through the text, Surgarohana Parva is the conclusion of Mahabharata. In both conclusions, we have the idea of conquest of, that is, victory of virtue over evil. This concept is there. Anyhow, after Mahabharata war, Yudhishthira conquered one Duryodhana and he get crowned in Hastinapura. It's very clear that good has won the evil. Same theme, again Vyasa wants to bring in the ultimate end of Mahabharata too. It's interesting. Anyhow, anybody who is born has to die. In that way, Pandavas die. Pandavas' death, probably historically, how it must have happened. After learning about Krishna's departure, Pandavas might have gone to Tapasya, to Himalayas, and there being in Tapasya, they also must have departed from the mortal world. This is historical. But here, Vyasa deliberately introduces an Arthavada. It's a poetic license. Arthavada means a myth conveying a message. That is Arthavada. Itihasas also have that kind of Arthavada. Therefore, I view this as Arthavada. A beautiful story with that Vyasa concludes. For that story, he creates a small Parva, 18th Parva, that is this Surgarohana Parva. Very interesting story. Let me take some 3 minutes time to narrate the story. Pandavas are moving towards Himalayas. On the way, starting from probably Sahadeva, Sahadeva, Nakula, like that, okay? First, Sahadeva is falling from the mountain. This is an Arthavada, okay? Then Bhimasena is shouting, oh, Sahadeva has fallen. Yudhishthira is marching further. Yudhishthira is telling, my dear, Sahadeva is a very great person, extremely intelligent, extraordinary, but yet he had that ego that nobody is as intelligent as me. For that, he happened to fall. Then, next, they are marching. Nakula is falling. Then Bhimasena is shouting again. Yudhishthira says, my dear, Nakula is also a very wonderful person, but he had an idea that he is more handsome than all people in the world. So, because of that element of Garva, he has fallen. Then that group is marching. On the way, Draupadi is falling. There is a very great shock. Then Bhimasena is crying. Yudhishthira with the calm mind answers, Draupadi also has fallen because even though she had all the good qualities, she didn't maintain samatva in few contexts, in some expected context. While samatva is expected, at that time she didn't maintain samatva, for that she is paying. Then the group is moving. Then Arjuna falls. For that Yudhishthira is answering, Arjuna has broken his word. In the context, he did a false promise and he had broken that word, therefore he has fallen. Finally, Bhimasena is shouting, "Oh Yudhishthira, I myself falling down." Yudhishthira says, "My dear, you are very great. And you are repository of virtues, yet your problem is your words are very, very sharp. You hurt the people like anything by your words. You didn't take care of that, therefore you have fallen." Atyuktihi. Yudhishthira alone is moving. And with Yudhishthira, a dog is coming, followed by the dog. Yudhishthira is going. And heavenly Vimana, heavenly Vimana is descending to take Yudhishthira to the heaven. At the time, this Yudhishthira says, this dog also has to come to the heaven. Then the Devatas, the angels which are there in that Vimana, they say, no, the dog cannot come. No, if dog cannot come, I also don't want this heaven. This is because the dog has taken refuge on me. I cannot give up this dog. As soon as he says this is Sharanagata Vatsalya. This is very important in Kshatriya Dharma. One cannot give up anybody who takes refuge on him. This is Kshatriya's Dharma. Dharmaputra is tested. And finally what happens? The dog becomes Dharma Devata. Dharma Devata assumed the form of dog, and now again it becomes Dharma Devata and embraces Yudhishthira. One side Indra, another side Dharma Devata. Both are embracing this Yudhishthira and they are taking to the heaven Yudhishthira. With this, the story doesn't end. Vyasa is creating more story here. Vimana is moving. By the way, Yudhishthira is asking another question. I don't want that heaven where my brothers are not there. Brothers have fallen. I can come to heaven only with brothers. My dear Yudhishthira, in heaven, your brothers are already there. They have shed their body and they are in heaven. Therefore, don't worry, you can come to heaven. Then Yudhishthira is flying in the Vimana. While he is flying the Vimana, he is seeing various Vimanas and Siddhas moving there in the space. And finally, in heaven, in one place, in a wonderful golden palace, Duryodhana is sitting and he is decorated well and he is revered, he is very much celebrated. Yudhishthira is shocked. He is a sinner, he is a man of evil. Why did you bring me here? Take me to my brother's place. I want to be with my Arjuna or Bhima. Then Indra said to his some attendant, you take Yudhishthira to Pandava's place. Then the Vimana is further moving, and he is smelling a very bad odor. He doesn't like that. And finally it goes into a deeper darkness. Then a huge sound is heard. He listens into it, a crying sound. He couldn't tolerate because this is very familiar voice. What is this voice? And by his eyes he sees, this is Naraka Darshana of Yudhishthira. He sees his own brothers suffering in hell. Duryodhana is in heaven and Pandavas are in hell. This he is seeing, Yudhishthira is seeing. And Yudhishthira cries by seeing this. Even I could tolerate Duryodhana sitting in heaven, but I cannot tolerate this because they are all very dharmic persons, Arjuna or Bhimasena. How can they suffer in hell? That's how the Yudhishthira cries. As soon as he cries, all these visions vanish. All these visions vanish and he sees himself sitting on the throne, Yudhishthira, in heaven with his brothers Bhima, Arjuna. They are all enjoying the heaven. Duryodhana is thrown into the hell. This kind of thing he sees and he enjoyed the heaven for a long time. This is how Mahabharata ends. And finally the message. This is very interesting. Finally the message. Nobody in the world is purely dharmic and purely adharmic. The one whom we call as dharmic also may have few adharma in him. This is that Lavotse symbol, The Lavotse symbol, Mahabharata talks about it. And one whom we call as adharmic has adharma elements more and dharmic elements lower. And those who have adharma element more, for their dharmic elements, first they will be in heaven. Then they will be punished for a long time in hell. This also conveys a message. Let me tell about that message. In the same way, those who are dharmic more and adharma element is lesser, they also suffer for their adharma first. Then dharma's result starts to work. So in our practical life also, heaven, hell, that is beyond the sky, those things you leave them. In our practical life, what is suggested is, dharmic people also may suffer as they have some adharmic elements. But by taking that in a peripheral way, we cannot conclude that dharma leads to suffering. Okay. Dharma, that is why it is called a Shreyas. Shreyas is that which can give you a long joy, but it may offer you a immediate pleasure. Prayas is that which can give you an immediate pleasure, but which cannot promise for you an everlasting joy. Okay, we are into prayers, we are not going to Shreyas. Okay, but here those who are Shreyas oriented, they may suffer in beginning, but gradually in deeper nature, if you see, the Shreyas leads only to joy. Dharma can lead only to joy. So Yudhishthira attained the heaven. With that, this Mahabharata is ending. So this is a message conveyed there. Last sloka of Mahabharata: na jatu kamat, na bhayat, na lobhat, dharmam tejet, jivitasyapi hetoho. Nityo dharmaha sukha dukhetu anitye, jivo nityaha heturasya nityaha. All the miseries which are coming, due to these cheap miseries, we should not give up dharma. We should be always in dharma, even though the troubles are coming. We have to face the troubles boldly, and we have to be in dharma. This message is conveyed by Vyasa Maharshi in the last sloka of Mahabharata.
Swamiji, thank you so much. Dr. Ranganji, thanks a lot.
It's okay.
If any one of you has any questions, you can write to Swamiji. He'll be too happy to handle them.